March 17, 1943, North Atlantic mid-convoy. The sea is black, heavy, and loud with engines. A U.S. Navy escort group tracks a contact that shouldn't exist on their screens, a Type WWII submarine running deep. Confident the black pit still protects it. Sonar pings tighten. The lead destroyer cuts speed, pivoting hard. Depth charges roll off the stern, one by one, each set shallow to catch a boat forced up for air. The blasts hit in sequence, steel buckling, ballast shifting, turbines screaming as the U-boat loses depth control. It breaks surface under floodlights. Crew scrambling, hands raised. A boarding party moves fast, pulling logs, charts, transmission codes, patrol tallies, raw numbers the enemy never meant them to see. Hours later, those pages transmit across Allied desks, then back into German naval intelligence rooms. And in silence there, the realization begins. Asterisk, asterisk, the war at sea has turned permanently. Asterisk, asterisk, the boarding results move quickly. No celebration, no pause. Every man knows time is the only thing that matters now. The destroyer's radio room stays hot with signals, copying and relaying every captured transmission code and patrol grid reference before encryption protocols can be changed. The convoy still pushes east, engines grinding against winter swells. The escort screen adjusting spacing to account for one ship temporarily slowing to handle the boarding. The North Atlantic in March allows no generosity. Visibility comes and goes in sheets of fog, each wave striking like a thrown weight, the kind that can shove a destroyer 5 degrees off course without warning. Command understands this zone well. It is the central gap in Allied air coverage. The stretch U-boats call the Black Pit, where convoys are supposed to be blind, silent, vulnerable. Yet tonight, the Americans hold an advantage the enemy has not accounted for. Newly coordinated HFDF bearings from multiple escorts, linked with faster code-breaking turnaround on shore, allowing them to locate wolf packs before those packs ever sight a convoy. The captured submarine crew watches the boarding party work with mechanical precision, stripping the radio compartment, ripping carbon paper, grabbing even half-burned message drafts. Their silence is not defiance, but awareness. They know exactly what these items represent in Berlin. The escort commander confers briefly on the bridge, pencil-tapping charts fixed to a drafting board bolted to the bulkhead. 2 wolf packs have been shadowing convoys along this corridor for weeks, operating under the assumption that Allied routing committees are reacting, not anticipating. With the new code and patrol area data in hand, the Americans can flip that assumption in hours, but hours require survival. The convoy's merchant ships are spread in 3 columns, 9 ships long, with gaps widened slightly due to rough seas. That spacing complicates maneuvering if contact is made from multiple angles. Diesel smoke runs low along the water, blending into the night. Long-range Luftwaffe, maritime patrol aircraft have been spotted out here before. Another reminder that intelligence runs both ways. The destroyers carry depth charges, hedgehogs, and radar capable of painting periscopes at closer range, but their margin of error is still narrow. A U-boat commander willing to surface in darkness to launch a spread at 800 yards can do damage before being disabled. Every decision here is numbers, angles, speed, timing. No one commands with instinct alone. The order goes out to signal Western approaches command, then Washington, then the code-breaking sections already standing by. Prepare for immediate exploitation. This information is only valuable as long as it remains unknown to the enemy that it has been compromised. Once Berlin changes cipher tables or adjusts Wolfpack patrol lanes, the advantage collapses. So the destroyer captain instructs the radio man to transmit using standard contact and sighting phrasing, masking the significance of what was taken. The boarding party burns anything they cannot carry, leaving the U-boat logs appearing partially destroyed by scuttling charges rather than captured intact. The captured submarine is marked for towing, not for show, for study. Propeller design, hydrophone array, insulation, torpedo data computers, each piece matters. Every captured component shortens the learning curve in counter U-boat warfare. Meanwhile, in Berlin, the German Naval Intelligence Branch reads routine loss reports without panic. U-boats are expected to be lost in convoy lanes, but when they receive signal intercepts later, patterns of convoys shifting routes before wolfpacks arrive, escorts converging before contact is made, questions begin to form. The German system relies on the assumption that the ocean is too large, Allied coordination too slow, and long-range reconnaissance unavailable in mid-ocean. The Americans are now proving otherwise. Back aboard the convoy, the escort commander issues a new routing change, a 5-degree course adjustment over the next 6 hours. Subtle enough to avoid alarming any watching U-boats, but decisive enough to slip clear of a known patrol line thanks to the captured grid data. A small change on paper, but one that could mean the difference between safe passage and torpedo hits in the night. Lookouts remain disciplined. No one trusts quiet seas. Every radar sweep is logged. Every sonar ping. The engines run steady. The convoy holds formation. The destroyers keep their arcs wide and overlapping, forming a shield shape not just by steel and movement, but by information. The boarders finish their work. The captain returns to the bridge. The next decision will determine whether the Americans try to use the intelligence immediately, risking alerting the Germans, or wait, letting the enemy believe they still command the deep. The ocean remains dark, cold, and full of listening ears. The moment to commit is seconds away. The captain does not announce the decision aloud. He gives it through the smallest gestures, a hand to the navigation officer, a nod to the radio chief, an order spoken level and clear to the sonar room. The task group will not break course sharply. They will not sprint. They will move with the discipline of a formation that believes itself unseen, even as every man on the bridge senses eyes in the water. The chart is updated with slow, deliberate strokes. The new route threads between two projected Wolfpack lanes. Exploiting the captured grid positions before Berlin can revise them, the convoy begins its incremental turn, half a degree at a time, too gradual to reveal intent. The helmsman maintains throat-tight control. Any overcorrection could broadcast that the Americans know what they should not know. Lookouts stay exposed to the cold, binoculars fixed along arcs drilled into them by habit, eyes burning from sea spray and sleeplessness. In the sonar shack, the operator adjusts gain carefully. Too much, and the return becomes noise. Too little, and a periscope glide might go unheard. He listens the way a surgeon watches a pulse for changes, not events. Hours pass under controlled tension. The ocean offers no assurance. The convoy's merchant crews carry the strain differently, hands clamped on railings, cigarettes burned to filters. No idle conversation. The escort destroyers maneuver in a deliberate pattern, maintaining standoff distance but always overlapping fields of coverage. The communications officer transmits only what protocol demands. No unusual traffic that could suggest intelligence knowledge. In Washington and London, analysts are already plotting U-boat routes, days in advance, using information that must not be traceable to this capture. Timing is everything. If the Germans realize the Americans can read their patrol grids, they will shift frequencies and cipher tables before a meaningful advantage is gained. Then the sonar operator stiffens. A faint, regular contact, metal against water, bearing west-southwest, range indeterminate. Not a whale, not wave interference. Something mechanical, controlled, moving. The captain orders course, steady. No lights change, no engines shift. The convoy continues as though nothing has been heard. But the destroyers begin shifting position by degrees, adjusting screens just enough to intercept without broadcasting the maneuver. The operator tracks the sound, speed low, possibly snorkeling or slow cruising. A U-boat attempting to shadow and report, waiting for night or weather to attack. The captain signals quiet depth charge readiness. No one fires first. This is a hunt of patience and pressure. The destroyer slowly increases speed, just enough to close the angle. The merchant ships maintain steady convoy speed. Any deviation risks collision in low visibility seas. The escort's bow cuts closer to the sound's bearing. The sonar return grows cleaner, rhythmic. The captain waits for the moment when the sub commits a slight increase in engine noise, a position change, anything that signals awareness. The ocean stretches silent around them, wind steady, waves dark and rolling. Then, there a minor speed change, maybe half a knot. Enough. The captain gives the firing order. Depth charges release into the water in a calculated spread, each set 2 distinct depths, creating a layered kill pattern. The explosions hit with blunt force, shaking railings and bulkheads, sending columns of white water up through the darkness. The merchant ships feel it but hold course. The destroyer's crew is already tracking the aftermath in sonar echoes, shifts in cavitation, hull, scraping, sudden engine cutoff. A damaged U-boat will not stay deep. It will have to surface or drown. The captain orders a search pattern. Sonar sweeps slow, methodical. The ocean answers with static, then nothing, then faint debris. Oil begins to rise in streaks on the surface. The watch logs it, but no one marks it as victory. They need confirmation, a surfacing, or clear wreckage. Another sonar contact cuts in, farther north. Second, submarine. Possibly more. The convoy remains the objective. The destroyer screens tighten, shifting to coordinated Wolfpack disruption procedure, moving from defensive escort to active interdiction. The radio operator receives encoded instructions from western approaches, divert convoy further east, and prepare for possible multi-angle attack at nightfall. The captain reads the signal twice. This is the risk. Acting on intelligence too quickly could reveal the capture. Acting too slowly could cost ships, lives, and supplies critical to the war effort. The ocean darkens toward evening. Temperatures drop. Lookouts switch out for fresh eyes. The convoy makes its second incremental course change, another half-degree east. The German submarine commander shadowing them must decide whether to close distance before darkness or wait for the rest of the Wolfpack. Every submarine captain in this corridor understands fuel limits, battery charge cycles, and torpedo lookouts. They cannot chase indefinitely. They need position advantage. If the Americans know their coordinates, even slightly, every choice becomes guesswork. Night approaches. Radar sweeps increase. The destroyers shift to alternating zigzag patterns designed to obscure their exact speed and bearing, complicating torpedo solution calculations. The convoy lights remain blacked out. Engines hum low but steady. The officers speak quietly, every word weighted for clarity. The sonar operator rubs his eyes, fatigue pushing in, but maintains focus. Another faint contact, then another. Multiple returns. A wolf pack is converging. The captain receives a new signal, short, direct, unmistakable. Hold course. Engage on terms of your choosing. The intelligence advantage must remain hidden. They must force the engagement to appear as skill, not foreknowledge. The destroyer prepares for combat without fanfare. Ammunition unlocked. Hedgehog projectors aligned. Depth charge crews stationed. The men breathe slow, steady, trained. No one looks away from their task. They know the margin here is seconds. The ocean, in darkness now, holds movement they cannot see. Only track, infer, and anticipate. The wolf pack closes. The convoy holds course. The destroyers shift formation. Contact is coming. The first shot is seconds away. The first attack comes low and fast. A periscope flash on the starboard bow. Just a sliver of glass catching faint starlight before it vanishes again, and the captain doesn't need confirmation. He orders a full rudder swing, and the lead destroyer turns hard, engines growling under strain, wake foaming out wide as the convoy holds its disciplined line behind. The torpedo track cuts through the dark water, a ghost-white streak visible only because the lookout's eyes are already burning from the cold and fatigue, trained to catch the smallest distortion. It passes just aft of a tanker, close enough that metal creaks from the concussive pressure of displaced water. No one cheers. The destroyer is already accelerating, sonar hammering steady pulses through the black, searching for the U-boat that fired. The operator hears it, the faint rumble of a dive, propellers increasing RPM as the submarine tries to slip under thermal layers where sound bends and scatters. The captain orders Hedgehog launchers primed and depth charges preset to staggered depths, knowing a submarine this bold will not be traveling alone. The ocean is no longer an open expanse, it's a grid of killboxers, each movement a calculated risk. The convoy continues forward, blacked-out silhouettes against the horizon, while the destroyer arcs wide, cutting the angle to intercept before the U-boat can slip behind or beneath them. The sonar return grows clearer, then wavers. The U-boat is changing depth quickly, trying to break the pattern, forcing the operator to adjust gain and frequency manually. Every tiny correction a race against uncertainty. The captain commits fire hedgehogs. The forward mortar throws a cluster of spigot-launched bombs into the water ahead, arcing like silent birds before splashing down in a tight pattern. Seconds stretch thin. Then one contact. A muffled, heavy underwater detonation. Not catastrophic, but a hit. The submarine is damaged in bleeding pressure. The destroyer swings into the turn for a second run. Depth charges rolling off the stern in disciplined sequence, each explosion hitting like a hammer against the hull plating. The sea heaves, lights tremble, and again oil begins to spread. The sonar operator confirms the return is broken, uneven. The U-boat is sinking or surfacing, and surfacing is suicide. But before they can confirm, a second threat closes in from the port side. The lookout sees it, 2 torpedo wakes this time, converging, fired not to hit, but to force chaos. The convoy splits formation just enough to avoid collision. The tanker nearest the line of fire shifts late, not enough clearance, and the torpedo catches it midships. The explosion throws fire across the surface, oil igniting in seconds, casting orange light across the entire formation, a beacon visible for miles. The German U-boat commander has forced visibility. The convoy is now lit against its own burning ship. The captain reacts instantly. Smoke screens. Full spread. The destroyers deploy canisters along the wind line, building a dense haze that obscures silhouettes at distance. But the Wolfpack has their firing solutions now. More torpedoes enter the field. Engines surge. Hulls shudder. The Americans risk collision for survival. The burning tanker's crew abandon ship and lifeboats that nearly overturn in the suction of water pulled toward the flames. The destroyer nearest them slows to haul survivors on board, men coated in oil, coughing smoke. But slowing means exposure. A periscope breaks the surface 70 yards off the port bow, too close for torpedoes. So the destroyer guns rotate and open fire, tracers cutting across water. Stitched lines of steel tearing into the rising conning tower. The U-boat tries to crash dive, but depth charges are already rolling, and the submarine disappears into a burst of black water and shattered hull plates. The convoy regroups in the smoke. The captain listens, not for orders, but for what isn't being said. The attacks are coordinated but hesitant. The Wolfpack is reacting, not leading. They are guessing. The Americans are moving in patterns they should not know. And on the German side of the water, in the belly of a submarine, still tracking, still calculating, the radio officer hesitates before sending his next position report. The frequencies he uses, the grid coordinates he transmits, the timing of his burst, all of it may already be compromised. He sends the message anyway, because procedure demands it, but his captain watches him with a flicker of doubt. On the destroyer's bridge, the captain receives a brief coded signal from shore. Short, precise, unmistakable. Asterisk continue operations. Do not reveal advantage. Asterisk, and he knows then what the Germans are beginning to realize. The Americans are not guessing. They are reading them. The Wolfpack prepares a final coordinated strike. The destroyers shift to intercept formation. Engines surge, searchlights remain dark. Radios stay silent. The next minutes will determine whether the Germans confirm their suspicion or never report back at all. The destroyer's bridge is quiet except for the hum of instruments and the low strained breathing of men waiting to see the next move, and the captain watches the sonar trace flicker, the remaining U-boat repositioning, moving not in a hunt pattern but in a probing arc, measuring how quickly the Americans respond, testing reaction time, depth charge spacing, bearing correction speed. The captain realizes it. The German commander is no longer trying to sink ships. He is trying to confirm a suspicion. The captain gives no order to chase. He holds the destroyer steady, trim, balanced, screws turning at the exact RPM needed to maintain formation without signaling intent. Every decision now must reveal nothing. The sonar operator reports faint transmissions in short, encrypted bursts. The U-boat is sending surface-level tactical data, relaying how the Americans maneuvered, how quickly they detected, how their formations shifted under attack. The radio man on the destroyer listens in silence, recording, decoding with tools he was ordered never to discuss. He identifies the cipher group. It matches one already broken. He glances toward the captain, but the captain is already watching him. A nod, no words needed. They are inside the German command loop. Below the waves, the U-boat suddenly rises to periscope depth, not to fire, but to confirm visual. The destroyer crew braces for torpedoes anyway, muscles tensed, guns ready, but the periscope simply turns, slow, deliberate, studying the convoy through the reflected light of the burning tanker. It is not an attack posture, it is observation. Up close, human. The captain orders no lights, no change in speed, no shift in escort posture. The Americans act as if they have not seen the periscope, though every gun aboard is already trained to the spot where it cuts the surface. The U-boat commander sees exactly what he needs. The smokescreen was laid before the tanker was fully aflame. The escort spacing changed before any torpedoes impacted. The hedgehog angle corrected before the dive curve stabilized. The American destroyer acted on knowledge it should not have had. And in that moment, he understands. The code is gone. The Germans have been speaking into a microphone wired to their enemy. He lowers the periscope. He does not order another attack. Instead, he orders a full dive, bow down, but not evasive, retreat. On the destroyer, the captain watches the sonar trace descend and fade, not broken or shattered, simply leaving. No convoy turns to pursue, no final depth charge run is made. The U-boat is leaving not to regroup, but to report. The captain knows what that means. Somewhere, in Berlin or Paris or Brest, there will be a briefing in which a submarine commander stands before higher officers and explains that the Allies are not guessing. They are reading German messages in real time, but the most consequential realization does not happen in that room. It happens in one deeper, quieter, more insulated. In Madrid, days later, a German intelligence officer receives an urgent dispatch from the U-boat command corridor detailing irregular convoy defense behavior and compromised frequency response timings. He compares it against the reports of agents in Lisbon who have noticed shipping losses to controlled, to patterned, to be coincidence. Then against industrial production numbers relayed by Abwehrmols in London, numbers that no longer match at all. The picture forms cleanly. The war's center of gravity has shifted. It is not the factories, it is not the tanks, it is not the U-boat fleet, it is the code. The German officer sits alone in a rented room above a cafe that smells like stale coffee and cigarette ash, turning the decrypt sheets over and over in his hands, realizing that the Allies have been living in the walls of their war machine for months. He does not tell his superiors first. He sends one message to Berlin. Asterisk, our communications system is compromised in full. Asterisk, it is the most dangerous message he could send. And as his hand hovers over the transmission key, he hesitates only once, not for loyalty, but for the weight of finality. He sends it anyway. The wires hum. The message travels. The moment passes into history, quiet, almost invisible, but irreversible. The first man in the German intelligence network who understands the scope of the loss sits back in his chair, exhales once, and knows the shape of the end. He sits there for a long moment, the wireless key still warm beneath his fingertips, listening to the soft mechanical ticking of the transmission encoder as it winds down. and the quiet is so complete that he can hear the distant street noise below a cartwheel. A vendor calling, the ordinary rhythm of a city still convinced the war can be won. He closes the case on the cipher pads, folds them with the practiced precision of someone who knows exactly what happens to men who misplace secrets, and buttons his coat. Outside, the sky is overcast, flat light that makes every building look washed thin, like the world itself is holding its breath. Across the continent, on the convoy route, the American destroyer maintains its slow escort speed. The deck washed down, the crew silent, repairing the blast damage and replacing signal lamps shattered during the engagement. No one cheers, no one boasts. They all understand what the captain understood. The real victory was not the sinking of a submarine, but the moment a German commander chose not to fire. The captain stands on the bridge, looking out at the open water, thinking of how wars don't break in spectacular flashes, but in quiet recognitions like that. The radio man logs the signal reports, cleans the equipment, writes nothing extra, because the power of the moment lies in what is already known, not in the telling of it. Weeks later, the message from Madrid arrives in Berlin, coded, stamped for senior review only, and the officer who reads it does so twice, then a third time, slower, understanding that the acknowledgement cannot be undone. He files it into the restricted dossier, but the look in his eyes gives away everything. He has seen the line where confidence ends. Even before the high command debates, before the analysts scramble to prove or disprove the loss. The mood shifts in corridors and briefing rooms. In the very way officers walk and speak, measured now careful as if stepping near the edge of something that has already begun to collapse. In the field, U-boat crews notice it in their orders. Patrol routes shortened, attack discretion increased. Transmission protocols revised and revised again. Each change layered with a kind of quiet urgency that speaks louder than any official announcement. They feel it most in the silences: fewer messages, fewer assurances, fewer confident forecasts of victory. On the Allied side, nothing is said either. The codebreakers continue their work, disciplined, invisible, knowing that triumph must remain indistinguishable from ordinary function. The destroyer captain files his after-action report with exact phrasing, neither more nor less descriptive than necessary, and he never mentions the moment the periscope turned not to aim, but to see. That part lives only in memory, the part that felt like someone on the other side looking back, not as hunter or hunted, but as a man who understood the truth and wished he didn't. In Madrid, the German intelligence officer walks past the cafe windows, coat collar up against a cold breeze, shoulders slightly hunched, not out of fear but out of the weight of realization settling into his bones. He orders a black coffee, sits alone, and watches steam fade into the air. He does not regret sending the message. Regret would imply he had a choice. What is left now is the slow unwinding, a war still raging, battles still to be fought, lives still to be spent, but the trajectory has changed. The end is no longer hypothetical. It has shape, it has direction, it has already begun. And in the quiet, after the storm, across oceans and borders and ranks the men closest to that moment, feel the same thing, the strange stillness of knowing history has shifted, and no one yet knows how to say it aloud. He feels the weight of it most in the quiet, not in the coded exchanges, not in the official reports, but in the stillness that follows them. The realization arrives slowly, like something settling into the bones rather than the mind, that wars turn not when soldiers fall, but when belief falters. He had spent years committed to purpose, to discipline, to the certainty that his side held the initiative. That sacrifice moved history in their favor. Now, when he wakes at night, he doesn't hear engines or gunfire. He hears the moment of recognition, that pause on the radio line, the silence where conviction used to be. He moves through his days as before, measured, efficient, unremarkable. But there is a subtle tightening in his jaw whenever someone speaks confidently of victory. He avoids conversation that reaches too close to optimism. He reads newspapers not for facts, but for what they omit. The American captain feels something different but parallel, not triumph, not pride, but the uneasy understanding that the men on the other side were not faceless. He remembers the choice in that silent exchange, the restraint. Sometimes, standing on deck during evening watch, he imagines the German commander staring up through the periscope, making his own impossible calculation. The ocean wind carries a salt dryness that stings the eyes, but he doesn't blink, he just stands, steady, holding on to rails that feel colder than the air itself. Neither man speaks of this to anyone. The German intelligence officer keeps working. The destroyer captain keeps commanding. But both now carry the shape of something irreversible, the knowledge that an ending does not arrive with a headline or a surrender document. It grows inside those who see the shift first. The German officer finds sleep harder. The captain finds silence heavier. The world around them continues its routines, orders, transmissions, logistics, patrols, as if nothing has changed. And yet, inside, both men have crossed a line they cannot uncross. Wars teach that courage is demanded in action, but sometimes the harder courage is in knowing what is already lost and living with that truth before the world is ready to name it. And that's where this moment lives now, not just in archives or operation logs, but in the quiet space where understanding settles. One decision, made in seconds, revealed a truth that would take the world months to accept. If this story resonated, if you felt the weight of that realization, the human cost behind the coded messages and steel hulls, stay with us. There are more moments like this. Turning points hidden inside routine missions, quiet acts of restraint, decisions that changed the war long before the headlines did. Leave a comment with what stood out to you most. Share this with someone who thinks history only turns on battlefields. And if you want to see the next untold moment, the next time a war shifted not with noise, but with recognition, subscribe. The story isn't finished. We're just now reaching the parts most people never learned.